Okay, so in 2002, after the September 11 attacks, you wrote an article in the San Francisco Chronicle that basically advocated torture for certain situations when it comes to terrorism.
No, I didn't.
No?
No. What I said was this: torture would occur. Torture has occurred. Torture is occurring. What we need, if we're going to torture, we need torture warrants. We need some degree of control by the courts. I don't advocate torture, but I know as a practical matter, if we could torture somebody and prevent a mass casualty attack, every president would authorize it. Every governor, every mayor would authorize it. And if it's going to happen, there should be torture warrants. So I advocate the use of a torture warrant. I do not advocate the use of torture. And that's a subtle distinction that many people did not understand and still do not understand. So I've been called the Torquemada of law professors on the ground that I advocate torture. I don't advocate torture. I'm opposed to torture.
Well, right, because, I mean, the situation you brought up in this was that if there's a ticking time bomb and if you could torture someone to stop it, then you should do it. But this whole situation is somewhat imaginary because you would have to know that this person knows about the time bomb and knows how to stop it before you actually start torturing him, which is sort of an impossible situation.
Well, it's not. Let me tell you a real story that happened. So there was a guy who was planning to blow up 9 commercial airliners from the Pacific to the United States. And he was part of a group that was planning to do this. And he was captured in the Philippines. And they tortured him, as they do in the Philippines. And he not only disclosed the plot, but he took them to where the bombs were. And he took them to the costume he was going to use to get access to the airplanes. So that was a case where a mass killing, 9 planes with 300 people, it's, almost 3,000 people, lives were saved because of torture. So it's a real situation. It's very rare, extremely rare, which is why you should have to get a warrant, because the warrant should almost never be granted. But if you get a case like that, a genuine, actual ticking bomb case, and I'm told by people who know in Israel that they have prevented some terrorist attacks by the use of, they don't call it torture, by the use of enhanced interrogation, but I call it torture.
Okay. Do you ever expect Israel and Palestine to ever be at peace? My entire life as a Jewish person, and I've been to Israel multiple times, it's really upsetting. It's really frustrating in terms of what's happening over there.
I agree with you.
I can understand both sides of the story, I really wish that at some point it could be worked out. But you know way more than I do about the situation. You know Netanyahu personally. I do not.
I do.
Do you ever expect in a foreseeable future for there to be peace there?
I think it's not likely. Why? Because the Palestinians were offered a state in 1937, 1938. They were offered a state in 1945, 1947, 1948. They were offered a state in 1967. They were offered a state in 1990. They were offered a state, a very large state in 2000, 2001, an even larger state in 2008. And every time they turned it down. And now it's become harder and harder and harder, because the Israeli government has turned more conservative. There are more settlers in the West Bank. So it's not become easier. It was very easy in 38. It was very easy in 48. It was very easy in 67. It was very easy in 90, in 2000, 2001, and 2008. It's much harder now. But it's all, not some, all the Palestinian leadership fault. They have turned down repeatedly opportunities to have a 2-state solution, because they will not say the following words: we recognize Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people. How do I know they won't say those words? I asked Abbas personally. I know him, and we had dinner together, and I asked him that question. No, he wouldn't do it.
I mean, does it really come down to the old city of Jerusalem, though? And really that being such a sacred place to both religions that neither party really wants to give it away?
The vast majority of Israelis are secular, and they care more about Tel Aviv than they do about Jerusalem. And they care more about watching their soccer games than they do about who's praying in the mountain, the hill of the mountain. So the religious part of it is important, and it's become increasingly important with the increasing power of the Haredi Jews. But the issue was never really about Jerusalem. It was always about Tel Aviv, Haifa, and the other areas. Remember, in each of the peace plans that Israel accepted, Jerusalem was divided into West Jerusalem and East Jerusalem, and the Israelis were willing to accept that. Palestinians were not.